Let's bring in Steve Hilton. He's a Fox News contributor, and Doug Collins, former Georgia congressman. Gentlemen, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Steve, I want to go to you first. This is a lot like that border visit that both presidents, the current and the former president, had. I believe it was the last day of February, where you got a chance to contrast the two presidents on basically the same subject. Now, I know President Biden's not going to be talking about this issue. He wants to avoid issues that he doesn't poll well on tonight for this fundraiser. But how can he avoid it?
Well, because he's got no shame and he's got no decency. That's the basic answer here, David. It is absolutely disgraceful for him to sort of, phone Eric Adams and, please pass on my condolences, giving them the brush off. Well, the reason is, of course, because they're embarrassed, because it's their policies that have led to this situation arising. This and so many other cases. People who should never have been here in the country in the first place, harming Americans, and in this case, causing the death of an American, bereaving a family there. And that's what was such a contrast. President Trump's remarks, which I watched outside the wake, incredibly moving. He was so clearly moved. And it was a very, very powerful performance there, because he knows what the American people expect. They expect that the government does the basics of keeping people safe, and especially keeping the people who keep us safe, police officers. And there's no question who stands with our police in America today and who doesn't. And the public will see that very clearly.
Doug, former President Trump's comments, I thought, were extremely in keeping with the situation. He wasn't really taking advantage of the situation for political gain. It seemed that it was a very intense, momentary reaction to what had happened. I think, do we have a clip from the president's comments earlier in the day at Massapequa? If we do, yes, we can roll that, and then I want to get your reaction. Roll that tape.
We've got to toughen it up. We've got to strengthen it up. This should never be allowed. Things like this shouldn't take place, and to take place so often. These are just incredible people that are just devastated. They're devastated. They've got a tough road. It's going to be a very tough road.
And Doug, you look at the former president's approval ratings on crime. The current president's approval ratings are way down. The former presidents are up, and they're going to be improved by this. It's just not an issue on which the Democratic Party has any standing at all right now.
No, they don't. And I agree with Steve. It's just the very weight of what he said was very on point. As a son of a Georgia State trooper who served for 31 years, this hits very home for me. And also someone who served in military and others. It's a family. And I think President Trump hit on the proper part here. It's the family now that has to pick up the pieces and go on this brokenness. And for the president basically to phone in, President Biden to phone in a sympathy call is terrible. And really, frankly, though, if you didn't see it earlier, Karine Jean-Pierre from the press podium wouldn't even name the officer's name and quickly pivoted to gun control as what the president has done about this. I mean, this is a criminal. He wouldn't have had a gun to start with. Give me a break. She ought to be fired for that. That's just unexcusable. And to see the difference between the Biden administration's reaction and pandering to the left and President Trump's basically sort of very sombering comments right there in front of the funeral home was very, very telling.
And Steve, another reason they may not want to talk to it is it relates so closely to the migration problem. I mean, there's so much of what is happening at the border relates directly to crime, and not only national crime, but international crime. When you have people coming in from China, you don't know why they are coming in. You have these criminal gangs coming in from Venezuela. So, and in fact, the former President Trump has categorized that as migrant crime. That's sticking, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes, because it's exactly right. And that's what's happening. This is the direct result of these policies, these open border policies. And look, we have enough crime already in America. We don't need to be importing it and then re-importing it, because often you have people who are here illegally, criminals who enter illegally, that's another crime. Then they commit a crime, then they're sent back, and they come back again. And when they're re-arrested, instead of then being completely throwing the book at them because they've created, that's a federal crime just there, they come back over and over again to commit crimes over and over again through this completely open border. It is an absolute outrage. So when we see a situation like this, it's incredibly important that we hold these Democrat politicians accountable, because every single one of these crimes is avoidable and should have been avoided.
Doug, the point is, it is policy that is making things worse right now. It is policy in the past that has made things better. For example, when Rudy Giuliani imposed the broken windows theory on New York law enforcement, it improved the situation enormously. We went from 2,200 deaths every year down to 400. I mean, it was just the biggest drop in crime we have ever seen, not to mention the effect it had overall in the city in terms of making it a more livable place, increasing tourism, increasing business in New York. On all those areas it improved. But it's not just New York. Chicago, we had this horrific case of an 11-year-old boy who was trying to defend his pregnant mother, who was stabbed to death by a perpetrator. And just like the guy who shot the cop in New York City, this perpetrator, alleged perpetrator, had committed many crimes before. He had a huge rap sheet, but he was let out because of this new law that they have in Illinois. Governor Pritzker, in fact, when he announced the new law last August after he signed the bill, he said the following. I'll get your reaction. He said, "Today I will sign legislation that focuses on our mandatory supervised release system, on creating successful outcomes for those who were formerly incarcerated, and improves the safety and peace of our communities." Well, first of all, it's a no bail law that is on steroids. It's even worse than the New York no bail law. And we see clearly that it has done nothing to improve the safety of the citizens.
Exactly. As someone who's worked on criminal justice reform issues for most of my career in Congress, working with Donald Trump, working actually with across the aisle with Democrats on this, the first and foremost of anything dealing with crime is your safety and your accountability for crimes committed. And that's working with our police, working with our investigators to make sure that not only is crime prosecuted, but that the people who prosecute the crimes and also investigate the crimes are properly taken care of. Then you work on a system that actually rehabilitates and you put them back in the system. But without the first step, what the governor of Illinois failed to realize is that you cannot have non-accountability. You cannot have a situation in which known people of violence are let back out into situations where they can reoffend. These are the kind of situations which Republicans should take the lead on. Republicans know how to do this. We are willing to work to make sure our cities and our country is safer the right way. But this idea that you just let everybody do whatever they want to do and that's going to be the key to it is you're just simply pandering to a bunch of voters. And that's exactly what the Biden administration is doing, with so many of these issues, from immigration to crime to the issue of Israel and Gaza. That's just what we see.
Well, Steve, beyond pandering, they're lying about the statistics right now, claiming that blue states don't have the same crime wave you see in red states because of the fact that we have these radical DAs in the blue states who aren't reporting the crimes. People, I think, know what they see. People know what they feel, and they're used to having now the government lying about the statistics. So will Democrats get anywhere with these canards that they're putting out about crime stats?
Well, no, because it's just like when they keep trying to tell you that the economy is doing great.
Yeah.
And then you look at Biden's approval ratings on the economy. They know what's happening in their life. They don't believe all that spin. And it's the same with crime. The first part of it is that they're fiddling around with the statistics and they're dividing up counties and cities and states and trying to get to a number that makes them look good. But the reality is exactly as you described. Because of these endless pro-crime policies where you have the DAs, for example, in Los Angeles, here in California where I am, these are very clearly saying we're not going to prosecute all these crimes, the whole long list of them. He comes into office saying, here's all the crimes we're not going to prosecute. Then, of course, first of all, those prosecutions don't happen. But it's more than that. The police get demoralized because what's the point of them even responding to calls when they know that it's not going to result in any kind of sanction or accountability? So that demoralizes the police. They don't go out. They don't stop the crimes in the first place. And the whole system just collapses. That is what we're seeing in these far left districts.
That is, Doug, final point to you. It's got to be quick, but that's something that President Trump really stuck on, was we have to have a new way of looking at police in this country, from the old no police or defund the police movement to a new respect for these officers who are dying as a result of these horrible policies.
It is, and it's also, and again, I think the most poignant pointed out is he mentioned the family today. There are family members who send their loved ones out to protect us. They need to be protected as well.
Absolutely. Doug and Steve, thank you very much.